Electric motorcycles are not new, but there are very few options in our market. We are here in Bengaluru to test out the new Oben Rorr and see just how good of an EV it really is. The Oben Rorr is supposed to be an alternative for 150cc naked motorcycles, and in that respect, it's visually not very different. It has a round headlamp at the front, a decently sized fuel tank, and a minimal tail end. But what does set it apart from any motorcycle is the lower half. Where the engine should have been, there's this massive battery pack. It starts from here and goes up until about here, and sits right in the motorcycle's trellis frame. What about the motor, you ask? The motor is right here, just above the swing arm pivot, and it drives the rear wheel using a belt, and that belt is mounted onto a large pulley. This motor produces 10 kilowatts of power, and with this reduction ratio, that's a lot of torque at the rear wheel. The Oben Rorr has an extremely simple instrument cluster. This fully digital unit displays just the bare essentials and the riding modes. One thing we noticed was that under harsh sunlight, this display is particularly hard to read. Riding position is an extremely important part of a motorcycle like this because it's going to spend most of its time in the city. That way, Oben have achieved a very neutral rider triangle that does not place any stress on me at all. A neutrally placed foot peg complements a wide rider seat, and there's an easy reach to the handlebars. Now we reach one of the most important aspects of this motorcycle review, the ride experience. And we're going to start with the behavior of the Rorr under 50 kilometers an hour, or in other terms, city riding. In such situations, the fueling, ride quality, all of that is almost at a par with 150cc motorcycles because the Rorr does everything you want it to do. But then you take it to the twisties where you want to go as fast as possible. And there also, the Rorr does a decent job. For a first product and a first EV product at that, this motorcycle checks a lot of boxes for user and enthusiast alike. The Oben Rorr comes with the convenience of carrying its own charger around. You open the panel on the fuel tank and you will have access to a plug that slots directly into a 15 amp domestic socket. And 2 hours later, your motorcycle is fully charged and ready to go. But it's not all roses because the Rorr has its share of shortcomings. And one of the primary items on that list is consistency. I told Oben about this issue and they assure me that it is limited to this particular model, this particular motorcycle. But during my ride, when I was switching through modes, sometimes city would not work, havoc would lose acceleration in the middle, sometimes when I'm closing the throttle it would come back on, and consistency issues. Similarly, the suspension bottomed out in some areas. And all of these are small niggles, and for a first product, it's fine, but none of them are deal breakers. Other areas for improvement include a fine attention to detail, especially in the aesthetics department, because that's what people see first, right? The cabling over here is a little messy. The handlebar touches both sides of the tank. And if you come back a little further, this does not look like a finished product. It's more of a prototype. This could have been improved. And moving on, the entire motorcycle does not look like a product-ready showroom piece. I know what you're thinking. Is the Oben Rorr a good motorcycle or a bad motorcycle? It's a little early to say, but the good news is that there are no big red flags about this motorcycle. Structurally, it works fine. And there are a few niggles in some areas where improvement is needed and is certainly possible. But what takes the cake is the battery, because during our ride, we we never had any range issues as such. And there is something interesting that you must know about this motorcycle's battery. So come on and let me tell you about that. This is where it gets interesting. This is an aluminium die-cast box, and inside it sits the 4.4 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery. But it's not the same as the lithium-ion battery I have in my phone or laptop. Why? Because this is a different chemical composition. A lithium ferrous phosphate, whereas this is a nickel manganese cobalt. What is the difference? Allow me to explain. LFP and NMC batteries are very similar, and there's very little to tell them apart in terms of advantages and disadvantages. But one of the most important things is that the LFPs are more tolerant, which means that this battery is less likely to be a victim of thermal runaways, or what we have come to popularly known as battery fires. So here's the big question. Will this EV explode? Oben Rorr have assured us that whatever happens, the battery of this motorcycle will not explode simply because it is safely inside an aluminium die-cast box. That being said, it's time to arrive at the price. This entire motorcycle costs rupees 1.03 lakh ex-showroom. What do you think about this price? Did you like this motorcycle? And do you have any further questions? Let us know in the comments section. And as always, if you like this content, do not forget to like, share and subscribe. Until next time.